Hi, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video from Wisecrack on nihilism. I just have a couple of comments to make on it here. They discussed the distinction between existential nihilism and cosmic nihilism or cosmic pessimism. Let me say, in a sense, they just came up with helpful labels to try to describe some of the important philosophical views and convey it in a useful way. There's nothing enshrined about the terms that they invented. So existential nihilism and cosmic nihilism are not commonly used philosophical terms. The thing I think that they're getting at in our course is most related to this distinction I raised when discussing Nietzsche between the first thesis, which I called nihilism, the denial that there's absolute meaning, like something beyond or some capital T truth that describes the nature of our reality, whether it be from a religious source or from philosophical views, something that can give absolute meaning to the universe. That's actually a view that Nietzsche endorses. And distinct from that is the second thesis that there's no meaning, period. That's what I think that the people at Wisecrack are calling cosmic nihilism or pessimism. So when they discuss existential nihilism, for example, they say it's these ideas. There's no inherent meaning to our lives. It's up to us to create meanings in our lives. That, I think, really is the first nihilistic thesis that I was talking about that Nietzsche agrees with. They use Bojack as an example of this, and I think in some ways that's right. The characters in Bojack are attempting to create meaning in their lives. They're just not doing it very successfully. So in some ways, I think that's a fair example. They use Kierkegaard to sort of set up this discussion of existential nihilism, and that I'm a bit uncomfortable with. Kierkegaard really was not a nihilist in the same way in which Nietzsche was. So I think Nietzsche is perhaps a better example of the kind of philosopher who endorses the thing that they're calling existential nihilism. They then go on to discuss the cosmic nihilism, the stronger view that rejects any sort of meaning. And they call this colder hyper-rationalism nihilism, or that even constructed meanings are just myths that we tell ourselves. I do love the fact that they were using Rick from Rick and Morty as an example of this. I mean, he is the greatest clear-eyed nihilist in modern cinema. So I think he is a wonderful character to talk about. But I'm not really comfortable with their use of Nietzsche here. And at one point, actually, the folks at Wisecrack recognize that Nietzsche doesn't really endorse any of this stuff. So Nietzsche is a better example of existential nihilism than he is an example of cosmic nihilism. Yes, he does agree that ultimately there is no fundamental meaning to the universe, but Nietzsche is incredibly optimistic about our ability to find it, or the normative need. What we should do in life is we should embrace health instead of sickness. And this is, of course, incredibly different than the kinds of things that Rick's character says. You know, Rick is no Nietzschean hero. That's, I guess, the biggest point that I want to make sure people understand. Rick is the opposite of the Übermensch in Nietzsche's sense, because he's aware that nothing matters, and that doesn't bother him whatsoever, and he simply embraces it. You might think Rick's ability to live without any values, to enact completely immoral things, makes him a Nietzschean character, but I actually don't think that's what Nietzsche would be, the kind of view that Nietzsche would want to endorse. So I think this is a really fun video from Wisecrack that gives us some more food for thought on both Bojack and Rick and Morty. They say that both forms of nihilism are ways to move forward in an uncertain world. I guess it depends on what you mean by moving forward. If you think that Rick's levels of substance abuse are any sort of moving forward in any sense, I'm not so sure. But in any case, I think this is the struggle that BoJack Horseman characters are doing. They are attempting to face the facts of nihilism and find meaning in their localized lives. So I really do think there's a way in which those characters are living in a kind of Nietzschean universe, trying to construct meaning, and they just, by and large, fail to do so. But nonetheless, that's the struggle that each of us is engaged in. Okay, thanks.